Hi, 7th grade. Welcome to day 4 of week 2. So, when you log in this morning, you're going to see an announcement that just gives you your daily reminders for the day. It tells you what you're responsible for today, and it also reminds you that we'll be taking an evidence of mastery tomorrow on everything that we've learned this week. So, make sure that you review that so that you come in prepared tomorrow for that. Okay, so I'm going to go to my classwork tab. I'm going to scroll down to day 4. So the first thing you want to do is take your attendance, make sure you complete and send, and then you're going to go into your lesson. Now for today's lesson, I also provided a YouTube link that is an extra support. It shows you how to construct a box and whisker plot, which is what we're looking at today. So here's our lesson. You have a brief warm-up where they gave you a dot plot and you are asked to make an inference about it. So my inference probably would have been that 5 feet 4 inches was the mode because it's the highest column I have in my dot plot. Okay, so we're going to be constructing box plots, or some people call them box and whisker plots. So before we make them, I want to just go over the different parts of them so that you're aware of all the pieces that create this box and whisker plot. So I have the same picture on my board here. The reason why it's called a box and whisker plot is because it has a box included, and then they call these pieces on the outside the whiskers. Okay, so the point that's at the lowest, this is called your minimum. And it would be the lowest number in your data set. And the point that is at the highest is then called your maximum. Okay, so we have a minimum and a maximum. Then where the box starts, right here, we call this our lower quartile. Okay, and sometimes you'll hear that referred to as quartile 1. All right, the other side of the box is called then your upper quartile. And then we also call that sometimes quartile 3. Okay, and then this middle section is going to be your median of the data, which we already know that's the middle number when your numbers are arranged in order from least to greatest, and that's your middle number. And we sometimes will also refer to this as quartile 2. Okay, so in a box and whisker plot, you have a minimum, you have a lower quartile, sometimes called quartile 1, you have a median, quartile 2, you have the upper quartile, quartile 3, and you have a maximum. Okay, something else to know is that we can break this box plot up into 4 sections. So for example, from the minimum to quartile 1, this is going to be 25% of your data. Okay, from the minimum to quartile 2, that's going to be 50% of your data. And then from the minimum to quartile 3, that's going to be 75%. And then obviously if we went from the minimum to the maximum, that would be 100%. So sometimes they're going to ask you about the percentages in your box plot. So just so you can see how they break them up. From the minimum to quartile 1, it's 25%. From the minimum to quartile 2, it's 50%. And from the minimum to quartile 3, it's 75%. Okay? So now that you know the pieces of the box and whisker plot, we're going to create one. And I just want you guys to also know that sometimes these whiskers vary in size. Sometimes they're very long, sometimes they're very short, sometimes they're not even there because they might be the same value as your quartile 3. So just be mindful that your box and whisker plot may not always look like this. Okay? But that's the general idea, to know the parts of it. So let's create one now. Okay. I'm going to jump back into the lesson. Oops. All right. Okay, so here's our first example. Trying to zoom in, let's see. Okay, so it says the number of pets owned by a random sample of students at a park middle school is shown below. Use the data to make a box plot. All right, so I'm going to copy that data onto my board. Okay, so we have 9, 2, 0, 4, 6, 3, 3, 2, and 5. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is order your numbers from least to greatest. So I'm going to put 0, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9. Okay, so you want to order from least to greatest. That should be your first step. Okay. Then, with your numbers in order from least to greatest, you can identify different parts. So right here, I see that 0 is my lowest number, so 0 is going to be my minimum. And then I also see that 9 is my highest number, so 9 is going to be my maximum. Okay, now to find the median, we figure out what the middle number is. So let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers. So 9 split in half to find the middle is about 4.5. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 numbers here. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers here. So my median is going to be 3. And that's going to be my middle number. Okay? Because it's right in the middle of my data set. So this is my median, or sometimes we call that quartile 2. Okay? Now, to find the lower and upper quartile, what you do is you find the median of the lower set and the higher half of your data. So we want to look for the median of this lower half. So we look at these numbers. The middle would be right in between 2 and 2. So the middle of 2 and 2, if we find that mean, it would be 2 plus 2 equals 4. And then 4 divided by 2 is 2. So our lower quartile is going to be 2. Okay, and sometimes we call that quartile 1. Alright, and then I do the same thing over here. So I go to my top half of numbers. The middle would be right between 5 and 6. So I'm going to do 5 plus 6 equals 11. And then 11 divided by 2 gives me 5.5. So my upper quartile is 5.5, or sometimes we call that quartile 3. Okay? So sometimes a number will be there for your middle, but because we had an even amount of numbers, we didn't have that middle number for our top half and our lower half. So we had to do the mean of those two numbers that were in the middle. So for here we did the mean of 5 and 6, we got 5.5, that would be the number right in between 5 and 6. And then for 2 and 2, we did the mean for that. If it's the same number, then it's going to, of course, be the same mean of those two numbers. Okay? So now we have all the pieces to make our box and whisker plot. So I'm going to start making that. So we know we have to go from a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 9. So I'm going to set up my number line. And I'm going to go from 0 to 9. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is put a dot on your minimum, and put a dot on your maximum. Okay, then you're going to put a dot on your lower quartile, your median, and your upper quartile. So my lower quartile is 2. Oops. My median is 3. My upper quartile is 5.5. So I'll make that right in between 5 and 6. And then my maximum is 9, which I already have. Okay, so now we have a total of 5 dots. So the 3 middle dots will always be the ones that create your box. So we're going to make a box around box dot 2 and dot 4, like that. Okay, the third dot should always be like floating in there. Then we make a line for our median to indicate what that point is. And then you extend your whiskers. So we go from the lower quartile to the minimum. And then we go from our upper quartile to our maximum, like that. So we've just created our box and whisker plot. Okay, so again, what we did, we set up our number line from our minimum to our maximum. We plotted our minimum. We plotted our maximum. We made dots where our quartile 1 was at 2, our median was at 3, and our upper quartile was at 5.5. The quartiles are what make up the boxes. So we make our box around quartile 1, 2, and 3. Quartile 2 gets its own special line because it's the median. And then we extend our lower quartile to our minimum to create the whisker on the left, and our upper quartile to our maximum to create the whisker on the right. So let's go and see what type of questions they would ask you. Okay, so the first question says, a good measure for the most likely number of pets is? Well, a good measure would probably be the median. I would say it's about 3 because that's your middle number. Okay? The next question says 50% of students have between blank and 3 pets. So remember, 50% is going to be when you go from your minimum to quartile 2. Okay, this is 50%. So 50% that have pets would be from 0 to 3. Okay? The next question says, almost every student in Parkview has at least blank pets. So I would say has at least 5 pets, because you can't really have 5.5 pets, but majority of your data is from here to the left. So I would say they have at least 5 pets. The next 2 questions talk about those percents again. So it says 25% of students have blank pets. So 25% would be from the minimum to quartile 1. So I would say 2 pets for 25%. Okay, 75% have blank pets. So that now is from your minimum to your quartile 3, all the way over here. So we're not going to say 5.5 pets because that doesn't really make sense. We would say 5 pets for 75%. All right. So those are your inferences that you can make about your box and whisker plot. And there's just like a nice diagram breaking it up for you. It does teach you about something else that we haven't talked about yet. So there's one other thing to go over. It's called the IQR. IQR stands for interquartile range. So let's go over how we would solve that. Okay, so to find an IQR, what you want to do is you want to subtract your quartile 3 from your quartile 1. And that's how you figure out your interquartile range. They want to find the range that the box is showing. So we're going to do quartile 3 was 5.5 minus quartile 1, which is 2. So that was quartile 3 minus quartile 1. And 5.5 minus 2 is going to give us 3.5. And we call this our IQR. Okay, and that is everything you need to know about box plots. So I'm going to make one more for you, just so that you feel good about it. Okay, let's see. We'll do the watch again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, ready? So we have 24. I'm sorry, I can't see the numbers. Okay, 24, 30, 30, 22, 25, 22 again, 18, 25, 28, 30, 25, 27. Okay, so here's our data, and the first thing you want to do is order your numbers from least to greatest. So I'm going to do that now. Oops. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, we're good. Okay, so here's my data. So the first thing you do is you say, okay, the smallest one is your minimum, and your highest one is your maximum. Then we have to find our median. So we're gonna count, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 6 here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's another 6 here. So our median would be right in between 25 and 25. So we would do 25 plus 25 equals 50. And then 50 divided by 2 equals 25. So our median, or our quartile 2, is 25. Okay, so notice this one's a little different. We didn't have exactly a middle number there, so we had to find our mean of the two numbers that split the middle. Okay, all right, so now for quartile 1, we look at the bottom half, and we find our median between these two numbers, this set of numbers. So we have 18, 22, 22, and then we have 25, 25, 24. So our median would be right in between these two numbers. So we're going to do 22 plus 24. That gives us 46. And then 46 divided by 2 would give us 23. So our quartile 1 is 23. Okay, then we go to our upper half, and we have 25, 27, 28, and then we have 30, 30, and 30. So we're trying to find the middle number here. That splits your data in half. So we do 28 plus 30, that's 58, and then 58 divided by 2 would give us 29, which is our quartile 3. Okay, so now we have all the pieces we need to make our box plot. So I'm going to set that up. I know that I need to go from 18 to 30. These were a little close. I'm going to take this one away and put an extra one on the end. Okay, so 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, so I plot my minimum and I plot my maximum. Okay, then we make our 3 dots for our quartiles. So quartile 1 is at 23. My median is at 25. And my quartile 3 is at 29. Okay, so the 3 dots in the middle are what make our box. So I'm going to make that box. Okay, the middle dot, excuse me, the middle dot is your median, so you draw a line through it. And then from your lower quartile to your minimum, you draw that whisker. And then from your 3rd quartile to your maximum, you draw that other whisker. So notice that in this box plot, majority of your data is towards the upper part of your numbers. There's not a whole lot on your lower part. See how that box shifted? Okay, so that's like an inference you can make. The only other thing I want you guys to solve with me is the IQR, since we just went over that. So the IQR again is going to be quartile 3 minus quartile 1. So I'm running out of space. I'll do it up here. IQR. So we do quartile 3 minus quartile 1. Okay, so quartile 3 is 29. Quartile 1 is 23. And that difference would be 6. So our IQR is 6. Okay, quartile 3 minus quartile 1. 29 minus 23, which would give you 6. Okay, so I hope this helped. I know it's a little intense, this one, but again, that other YouTube video is a part of the lesson for you to use as another reference. It guides you through how to make these box and whisker plots as well. I'm gonna get out of this just to show you what else you have to do. So there's that link, watch it, so you can see another way, another person just showing you the same thing I just modeled for you. You have your answer key lesson to check your work. You're going to complete your extra practice, okay? Complete it, make sure you click submit, and then you have homework for the day as well, all right? Don't forget, tomorrow you're taking your evidence of mastery. That's right here. So make sure that you start reviewing tonight if you haven't done so already, all right? Have a great day, 7th grade.